Hey there, everyone. My name is Eric Richards, and I want to talk to you today about a topic that keeps coming up, not only during showing appointments, but during listing appointments, and then in the news, as well as other realtors' YouTube channels where we're talking about what it was like in the good old days. And it wasn't that long ago. Back in 2021, what we saw was low interest rates that drove a market fever like we've never seen before to purchase a home. And now what we see are interest rates that are high, trying to combat the higher inflation that the Fed sees as a threat to our economy and the global economy, where they want to raise interest rates to slow down activity. But is it really working? Is it really having the effect that we want to see? Let's talk resales, because in the last video, I just covered what it was like to purchase a new home back in 2021 versus this current year. It's no secret that the best priced homes and the best deals are in the resale market. Think foreclosures, think bank repos, short sales. What we know to be true is that if those come back, there will be great deals for everyone, but we just don't see them in the abundance that we saw back after 2007 and 2008. The reason for that is we still have inventory shortages and everyone is sitting on equity. So if a seller suddenly can't make payments and they have to list their home, chances are they're sitting on enough of a cushion where they're not going to face a short sale or a shortage, meaning a difference between what they owe and what the home is worth. Now, if you've just purchased in the last 6 months and you find yourself unable to make payments, then you might be facing a short sale situation. Why do people buy existing homes? They want some sweat equity. They want to put some changes to the home. They love the floor plan. They love the location, but they just want to knock down a few walls, or they want to redo the yard, or perhaps they've always had it in their mind that they're going to have a home movie theater in the basement or some other big improvement. They wanted that 3-car man cave where they could, put together that midlife crisis car, and they need that. And sometimes new construction doesn't offer an opportunity for that. So resale is the only way to go. Another big reason that people don't want a new construction home. They don't want to live in a neighborhood controlled by an HOA. They want the freedom to paint their house pink if they so choose. Or perhaps they have it in their mind that the HOA is just too controlling. Whatever the case may be with your opinion on how HOAs may rule a neighborhood, that is a deciding factor on why some people just choose not to purchase new construction, because they do not want to have to deal with an HOA. They perhaps value the location over everything else. And sometimes new construction is just so far out, so far north, it's just out of their price range. And so resale makes the most sense. And location becomes that reoccurring theme in real estate. Some people prefer the architecture of older homes. So think craftsman homes, Victorians, old bungalows in downtown Colorado Springs or downtown Castle Rock, downtown Parker. Those are irreplaceable and they're not being built anymore. So that becomes a deciding factor on why someone would buy a resale home. Going back to 2021, it was a bloodbath. I used that term before, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I use that term. What we literally saw was buyers writing offers on the hoods of their agents' cars. We saw people writing offers on their agents' iPads in the living room while the rest of us were touring the home. It was a different kind of environment. If you wanted to be a successful buyer, you had to waive your appraisal. You had to waive your inspection rights. You oftentimes had to take the property sight unseen because the seller had a backup offer. Those factors contributed kind of to a pandemonium that was so common in 2021. One of my buyers actually in 2019 or 2020 was featured on the local news for having 14 offers before actually getting a home under contract. It was kind of crazy. Back in 2021, the pandemic was also going on. And this contributed to that feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out, that if you didn't get this home now, someone else might jump on it because they were so eager to move out of big cities and they wanted to live maybe just a little further out of town. And so our instructions oftentimes for seeing homes were to mask up, glove up, put on booties, hand sanitizer, only allowed in the homes for so many hours. Sometimes agents would just allow 1 hour and then they would open up the home and run an ozone machine. There was a heightened sense of health and safety, and that definitely contributed to the real estate market that was 2021. You as the buyer were expected to come in at about 8 to 10% over asking. And I'm going to reference that later when we talk about the monetary component of comparing 2021 to 2023. But keep this in mind. If you were buying a $500,000 home and you had to come in in 10% over asking, that's $50,000. And that difference between a $500,000 home now at 7.5% interest rate versus, say, 3.5% interest rate, when you added in an additional $50,000 in paying over for the home, I think a lot of those people are still playing catch up. And I would love to do something more than just back of the cocktail napkin math where you ran a line and said, okay, their time to recapture as the value of the home rose, but their payments were so much lower than a $500,000 home of today. I think that those people who paid 10% over asking mortgaged out their home's value far into the future. And that needs to be considered as part of the buying experience when you say, gosh, I'm glad I bought in 2021 as opposed to these high interest rates of today in 2023. Your experience with your lender was also a bit problematic because the lender was so busy doing refinance business that they had junior loan officers, loan processors who were getting spun up because the mortgage industry was just swamped, to be honest. Loans were taking between 5 and 6 weeks to process. Appraisers were backed up. We had to write, not only could we not put appraisal protections in your contract for you, but the appraiser still had to get to the home. And so if they couldn't complete it within the deadline of actually getting the appraisal done so that you would have the opportunity, hopefully, to either A, walk away with just your earnest money, or B, decide if you wanted to plop down extra cash to cover the difference between what the home appraised for, which is low, and what you actually offered on the home, which is high, then there was a concern and there was a lot of stress that was going on. So today's environment is a lot different, and I'll go into that in a moment. Closing costs. You had to come up with your own money. That either meant bringing in extra down payment to cover the closing costs, or you had to work with your lender and say, well, I know the rate today is 3.25, but I need $7,500 in concessions. And the lender would say, well, there is a credit at 3.875%, and that would cover all your costs. So some people may have been thinking, yeah, we got low rates, but I'm going to have to eat into those low rates in order to cover the needed concessions because I want to put all my money towards down payment. I want to have as low of a loan to value ratio as possible. So that is dramatically different today compared to 2021. Let's talk about stress as well. I mean, hey, I don't have as much hair as I used to, and a lot of that is due to the pandemic period of selling real estate. And I'm kind of cracking a smile here because it is true. It was not uncommon for the other agent to be hounding me about my clients saying, hey, are they going to close? Is everything okay? Because they had backup offers. They had people literally begging them to cancel the other offer. It wasn't possible, of course, but they wanted to make sure that the deal was solid. And so that extra stress really played into how the market treated buyers and accordingly also treated sellers. Some sellers really just wanted to have one showing, take one contract and sell it to what they thought was the best possible buyer. But oftentimes buyers qualified just barely and they would go out and write an offer because they were on their 14th or 15th offer. And so this dramatically impacted their mentality when they were competing in multiple offer situations. You know, to come in 20,000 over on a $350,000 condo was kind of the norm. And I don't miss it at all, but that was what we kind of all expected from buyer activity. So in summary, 2021 was chaotic. It was basically downright mean, and it was difficult to be a buyer in. But remember, people are really, really happy about that 3%, 3.5% mortgage that they picked up during that period. And if they had to pay over for it, so be it. They got a low rate. And I don't know if all of that is going to play out in the long run for those buyers' advantages. We'll check back with them at a later date, maybe in a couple of years, and see how that scenario is working out. In 2023, home sales have swung back to a more equitable and fair proposition for buyers. Now, you'll hear people talk about it still being a seller's market because days on market is less than 60 days, and that is true. However, the experience is dramatically different. Let me summarize some of the reasons that I'm saying this so you understand what clients of mine and potentially you are going to experience if you jump into the real estate market right now. There are, of course, exceptions to this, and that would be one-off Victorian homes down on Wood Avenue or 40 acres in Black Forest. You know, things like that that don't come up all that often are going to sell with multiple offers, and they have always historically sold with multiple offers, regardless of the real estate market that we may find ourselves in. Some early in the year buyers in 2023 were able to capture lower rates because they were only in the fives, and they used those 2-for-1 or 3-2-1 buy down programs where the seller would cough up concessions and they would use that money to buy the rate down. They would build an escrow and they would help subsidize their payment for year 1, year 2, and then finally year 3 it would go back to the normal payment. And these are not the dreaded 1, 2, 3 loans of of 2008 that got us into the mortgage derivative mess. No, these were still qualifying loans through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But more importantly, they gave buyers this sense of security that at least for that first year during this tumultuous period, they would have a low rate. And some of my clients were able to capture 3.75% when the rate was 5.75 back in March or April. So that was definitely a thing that we were doing. I think those things have tapered off now as a result of rates being in the high sevens and that just being less effective. People are opting now for a true buy down experience or taking all those seller concessions and putting them towards closing costs or perhaps seller repairs. In 2023, I tell people you get the luxury of time. You get to go back and see the home multiple times prior to making an offer. And that feels good. That feels wholesome. If you're going to spend $500,000 on a home in Colorado Springs or $750,000 up in the South Denver area, you'd like to see this home more than once for 15 minutes. Let's walk around. Let's experience the home. Let's find its shortcomings. Let's talk about its advantages compared to the last 5 homes that we saw that day. This luxury of time benefits you as the buyer. And I hope that you can appreciate that, because looking back at 2021 and some of those people that literally had to decide within 15 minutes of walking out of the home, I think they're pretty disadvantaged when it comes to the buyers that are in the market today. Remember, they had a 3% mortgage. So is that what keeps them sleeping at night compared to the person who was able to go back and see the home multiple times and see it again during the inspection that you were allowed to conduct, whereas back in 2021, you were not able to? Sellers are offering seller concessions again. And I think that this is great, especially for a lot of the homes in the Colorado Springs market where we have a lot of first-time home buyers. The military, and we all appreciate what you do for us on a daily basis. You PCS here, and you come from other markets, and you may not be coming in with a bunch of equity from a sale. Perhaps this is your first duty station. It would be nice if the sellers would give you some seller concessions to pay for all your VA closing costs. And they're doing that again. If we're buying a $350,000 home that's 5 to 10 minutes away from Fort Carson, you can absolutely request from the seller, I would like you to help pay off some of my existing debt, because that's allowed in the VA loan, and I would like you to pay for my closing costs. Yeah, sellers are doing this again, and that's great. 2021, not so much. So I like that buying experience better, especially for our VA buyers. Sellers will negotiate with you again on inspection items. In fact, they're doing 80 to 90% of them. This is good, especially for VA home buyers, because of that list of items that potentially can come up on your VA appraisal. That also applies to FHA items. So if you were a VA buyer in 2021, it was far too common for your offer to not be considered because you were using a VA loan. And I think that that's really crummy. Also, if you were an FHA buyer, you ranked a little bit below a VA buyer because people naturally assume that there was an issue with your credit score that was preventing you from being able to use conventional financing. So right now, we find that type of loan is not being scrutinized. In fact, sellers are more than happy to take basically any type of loan if it means a near list price offer or just a little bit below. And I think that, again, that swings things back in the buyer's favor, making it more equitable, despite the lower days on market required to define what is a seller's market in air quotes. Sellers will give you extra time to complete your contingency. Wait, I said contingency. Yeah, sellers are taking contingent offers again. I'm working on one right now where the seller had already completed their inspection and appraisal in another state, came in, wrote an offer on my listing, and we were able to take that offer with confidence because we felt like the system was back to working the way that it should. So if contingencies are back, then the market allows you to take that equity from your existing home and transfer it over to your new home. And that's great. Bottom line, it's a more pleasant experience to get a loan these days. It's a more pleasant experience to see a home once or twice prior to making an offer. And I know that it's a bit cliche and you hear this on the radio and the TV and the internet, but date the rate and love the home. We're not going to be here forever. Everyone keeps saying it. The Fed doesn't want to keep the rates high because they know what it does to the economy, but they have to stall things for what they believe is the greater good. So we're all just kind of along for the ride until it works out. And lenders are priming themselves and getting ready for the moment when rates drop back to the 6s and the 5s and the 4s in the coming years. And here's a fact that I just just heard this morning, and I think that this is really important, and I'll cap the video with this. For every 1 whole percentage point that interest rates fall, another 5 million buyers in the United States are now able to qualify to purchase a home. If we already have inventory shortages, think what that is going to do to the real estate market. We professionals all think that the market is bottlenecked right now. And if we suddenly unlock 5 million buyers just by going from the 7s to the 6s, look out. It's going to go back to a hot market with appreciating prices. If it drops 2 points to the 5s, again, the same story. We don't have enough inventory. So I'll be doing videos about how to find homes when there aren't any. And I'll be doing videos on let's work with the builder before they even have the lots available and put a deposit down. We will go back to a market that doesn't have enough inventory, and buyers are going to trip over themselves trying to find homes. I want to wrap up by pointing out something that you rarely think about when you're buying a home, and it bears repeating in this market that we have right now in 2023. If you can save money on the purchase and the price of your home is lower and you take that higher payment, and I know that it's unfortunate to have a $4,000 or $5,000 a month mortgage payment, but years from now when you go to sell, you'll be happier that your home was purchased for 5 to 10% less than your neighbor's home that just sold and you're getting ready to sell. That's more equity in your pocket that you built as a result of all the surrounding sales in the area. And so while we're riding out this period with higher interest rates, I feel that it is a better market. If you agree with me, please leave a comment. And thank you so much for watching these videos. I have a lot of fun making them, and I look forward to talking with you on the next one.